That's a hard assignment in the AFC this year. That's the problem. I understand the streets are. Everybody outside, I didn't even know there were that many Jets fans. All of a sudden, they're coming out of the woodwork in our office saying, "Oh my God, we got Aaron Rodgers."
It's like Field of Dreams, but instead of those players, just Jets fans.
Can I just say one thing? I want to be on the record. He's the best quarterback the Jets have ever had. Well, him and Favre are about the same, but that is not going to be enough, Maggie. There's so much more involved here besides just having a great quarterback. That's why it seems so great today, but isn't there so much more to this?
Well, of course there's more to it, but we've seen guys switch teams, find these sort of sleeping giant teams, and ride this to the Super Bowl. This happened with Brady. Brady, though, is the greatest of all time, so it's a little different with him, but Rodgers is going to be mentioned. Maybe not with Brady, but he's right in the conversation for greatest to play. And you also have to look at Matthew Stafford. I mean, you switch teams, you find a great defense, you have weapons, and you ride to the Super Bowl. Now, you notice both of the teams I mentioned in the NFC. It's going to be harder in the AFC just because of the crazy, gauntlet of quarterbacks that you're going to have to face. Hell, in your own division, it's going to be incredibly hard. You got Josh Allen. If Tua's healthy, that offense hums. You got Belichick as one of the greatest coaches, if not the greatest to ever do it. Then let's talk about Mahomes, Burrow, wherever Lamar Jackson ends up. The Steelers are always a factor. Herbert is obviously a factor. Trevor Lawrence made the playoffs last year. They could build upon that. I mean, just a lot going on in the AFC, but Rodgers going to the Jets now, you have to put the Jets in the conversation. You must.
So here's the thing. For every Tom Brady winning the Super Bowl and Matthew Stafford, which is a completely different situation than both of these, because that was McVay and a lot going on there, there's a Brett Favre who came to New York. It was actually pretty terrible. And
well, they were good before he got hurt.
He threw 22 interceptions in 11 games.
That's Brett Favre, though. That's the Favre experience.
But then Favre came out the next year and played like an MVP. He couldn't wait to get out of there. And again, there are a lot of great quarterbacks who've gone to their next team. And now Russell Wilson, most recently. You could have said Denver was a sleeping giant. Everyone thought that was Aaron Rodgers' sleeping giant. Russell went there, and it was a train wreck. I don't think that's going to happen in New York. But this Brady to the Bucs and Stafford to the Rams, this is not the norm. It's still a bit of the exception. And when you read those AFC teams, I'm leaning towards, it's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard to replicate Tom Brady to Tampa Bay.
It's going to be hard, but Rodgers motivated, and I think he is motivated. So let's hear a little bit from Rodgers, who was on Pat McAfee. By the way, you can listen to us across the country, CBS Sports Radio. Of course, if you want to watch us, you can go to youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio. Come on in, say hi, get involved in the chat. Okay, so let's first talk about Rodgers and sort of how this kind of went down, if you will. Manny, let's play cut one. When Rodgers went into the darkness retreat and then came out, and how things were different.
I got back to that little shack they have where there's a one bar of Wi-Fi. I got back to the hundreds of text messages and emails and all different things. I realized that there'd been a little bit of a shift, and that I heard from multiple people that I trust around the league, players mostly, that there was some shopping going on. That they were interested in actually moving me. At this point, I got to admit, I went in the darkness 90% retiring, 10% playing.
Right. So went into the darkness, 90% retiring, 10% playing. I mean, that's overwhelming. But if you asked any guy a couple weeks after the season ends, I bet a lot of them want to retire because their bodies are so banged up.
Absolutely. This feels like Rodgers has said the same thing. He talked ad nauseum about retirement 2 years in a row, and Brady did. I don't think that 90-10 is such a radical number after a season. It seems like a lot of work to play a football season, and he came out of there.
You're basically in 17 car crashes in a 6 month span.
I don't believe anything he said, by the way. 90-10, get out of here.
Well, I mean, listen, this is what he said. We have to take his word if you choose to. But what he said is that when he went into the darkness retreat, like the last conversation he had with the Packers right after the season ended, they told him, take as much time as you want. The door is always open for you, even though later in the interview, Perloff, he admits he felt there was a change, that they wanted to move on. He even felt that at the end of the season, that they drafted Jordan Love to be his replacement. Had it not been for 2 MVP seasons, he would have been out the door even earlier. So then he tells us that he wants to play for the Jets.
At this point, as I sit here, I think since Friday, I made it clear that my intention was to play, and my intention was to play for the New York Jets.
Okay.
And I haven't been holding anything up at this point. It's been compensation that the Packers are trying to get for me and kind of digging their heels in.
Okay. Well, I mean, the Packers are digging their heels in. The fact that he says in that sentence, Perloff, it's my intention to play for the Jets, puts, no pun intended, the ball squarely in the hands of the New York Jets. The Packers don't have to do diddly squat here. They have their quarterback. It's Jordan Love. They can sit here. They don't even have to technically sign off on this trade until like July or August. I mean, they are sitting pretty here with Rodgers. It's now up to the Jets to push this thing across the goal line.
Do you think, though, that maybe
how many sports metaphors can I use?
Do you think they might have already come up to close to agreement? Do you really think that is there still leverage at play here? Rodgers said at the start of last Friday. Yeah, I don't know, though, if there really is leverage in the sense that they might have already kind of reached an agreement in principle. Don't you think that they would not have let this ball get down this far on the road if they were still really haggling over picks?
Oh, my God. I think so, too. I mean, I thought that this was all a done deal, and it really was Rodgers maybe wanting some of his guys. We saw the Jets sign Alan Lazard, the Packers receiver, former Packers receiver yesterday. Rodgers is... You get the sense he went on McAfee for two reasons. One, to thank the Packers and the Packer fans. That was clear. He said it over and over again, how much love he has for Green Bay and the facility and the employees and fans. But two was to tell everyone, it's not me that's holding this up. I don't have a wish list. That's BS. And it's all about the Packers are now digging in their heels and trying to extract as much as humanly possible from the Jets. And you saw there was reporting from Adam Schefter and other people that the Packers were hoping for 2 first-round picks. And the reason why, if we can hear cut number 3, is because Rodgers, his stature in the organization makes this difficult.
You know, my plea is, and I would say this is debatable, but I'm debatably the best player in franchise history. I'm in the conversation for sure.
That was awesome.
What's not debatable is I'm the longest tenured Packer in history. Like, you can debate the first part, obviously. Bart, Brett, a number of names have been incredible.
Whoa.
But you can't debate anybody's been there longer than I have. And nobody's bled green and gold like me.
So that's what makes this difficult. He said it's not just like trading any run-of-the-mill guy.
Yeah. Wait, just to go back, do you really think that right now, I just can't, maybe I'm naive. There's no way Aaron Rodgers could go out on a Tuesday and say all this, knowing that the Jets and the Packers are still far apart on terms.
I don't think they're far apart. I think they're probably haggling over something.
Right, haggling over something. But that would be such a monstrous mistake by Rodgers to jump the gun and hurt his own team.
Well, I think that's what he's doing, whether he meant to or not. Yeah. I think he wanted people to know, I don't have a wish list. There's no demands. We saw that yesterday. It was going to be Randall Cobb and Mercedes Lewis and Odell Beckham Jr., according to Diana Rossini. Rodgers said that's not true. He said he does talk glowingly about former teammates when asked about it, but he doesn't have a list.
It's like a wish list. Like, he probably told the team, I wish I could get these guys there, but he wasn't holding them to it.
Right. Like, he said, I've made it known since Friday that I intend to play for you. So now you guys figure it out, meaning the Packers and the Jets.
Would that be funny if this, what's the funniest possible scenario that this whole deal falls through, right? It'd be a disaster
There's no chance it's falling through.
But wouldn't that be the just classic Jets?
Well,
the Packers, by the way, do not have all the leverage in the world because they can't take Rodgers back and pay $60 million.
That's true.
That ship left the station.
He would just probably have to retire. Although he did say that there were other teams involved and, kind of talked around it, said it without saying it.
I think there were other teams that were interested, and obviously there's certain players that I have a lot of love and affinity for, and the reuniting with especially one specific person would have been Devontae
in Las Vegas. You're talking about Devontae Adams?
Not mentioning any names, but there's definitely one particular guy who him and I have this special kind of unspoken rapport.
Yeah, Stu, I'm sorry. I know. You're a Raider fan. You didn't want Jimmy Garoppolo. Looks like maybe the Raiders were interested. Although the Raiders are all over the map. They might have been interested in Rodgers. They may have been trying to call the Bears to trade up to number 1. Pick a lane, Raiders.
Well, as Mike Florio just posted that he said they were definitely trying to get to number one. They definitely wanted Rodgers, and they ended up with Jimmy G. And Raiders fans are not happy. Sorry, Stu. Yeah, it's funny. Now all those teams are gone. The Panthers are gone. True. The Raiders are gone. So now it's just the Jets and the Packers. I just cannot wrap my head around a big divide. Here's the questions that are coming out of it. This year's number 13 pick, is it a first round next year? And where's the money land? That is so tricky, too, because it's a lot of money to split up.
Well, and they're all connected, right?
Yeah.
Because the more money that the Packers pay out of Rodgers' contract, the more draft compensation they're going to expect from the Jets, right? That's how this works. So the more money that the Jets have to pay, the less draft compensation they're going to want to send back. So it's all tied together.
Yeah, it's wild. I actually just put up a poll. I jumped the gun here.
Okay.
What's the proper goal out of this for the Jets? Is it the Super Bowl? Is it making the Super Bowl or getting the AFC title game? And everybody is saying they're not even going to win the division. Why are you so high on them? That's what my Twitter feed said.
I don't understand the negativity towards the Jets stuff today. Like, all right, same old Jets. You can go. They haven't won, since 1969 season, Joe Namath. But, like, why would you be negative today? Who were you going into the season with? Like, Lamar Jackson that's so far down the road now. And speaking about something that doesn't have to happen until July, I mean, Lamar Jackson doesn't have to happen until technically July is like when the deadline is for him to sign the franchise.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people, don't trust the Jets. And I think a lot of people have problems with Rodgers. A lot of people in the media, especially, because he keeps throwing them under the bus. And he is a bit controversial. You admit, they're not bringing in Tom Brady, who is
the golden
all about
boy.
football.
Right.
Aaron brings a lot to him. I think people are looking at it as a risk, too, because Aaron's coming into a new locker room with young players.
Right.
And I think people are worried. That you watch the McAfee show. He's dramatic.
He definitely gave a history lesson on the Packers today, which was kind of neat. People rolled their eyes, including Manny, who just rolled his eyes.
It's not an overly simple addition. That's all I'm saying. So I feel like it's a big risk and high reward, Super Bowl.
Super high reward.
Super high reward. But I do think that there's a downside to this. I do think that this could go really badly for the Jets.
See, I really don't see it. They might not meet expectations, but unless he really comes out with like some weird conspiracy theory stuff, and that rubs people the wrong way. I mean, he's already kind of done that. But
yeah, I mean, I don't know what else. But
I mean, the guy's anti-vax. He's now playing for the people who founded Johnson & Johnson.
Right.
But because the world is hilarious,
Right.
Because there was no way. Because the world has a great sense of humor. That's why. But to be honest, I don't see how this goes off the rails. They might not go to the Super Bowl, but I don't see it ending in like a crash and burn. We didn't even know how bad it was with Favre sending the text messages and inappropriate stuff to Jen Sturger until after he was gone.
Yeah. There's, it's a young, talented locker room.
Yeah.
There's a possibility.
They won 7 games last year with nothing at quarterback.
There's a possibility comes in. It doesn't work exactly as they want, and they're looking for a new quarterback in 9 months. That's the risk.
Listen, but is it even a risk? Because unless you thought Derek Carr was like the model of stability, which the guy is, I don't know why the Raiders came out and said he wasn't a culture fit with them. I thought he set the culture, but anyway, that's another story for another time. Or unless you really thought you were going to get Lamar, and Lamar's a way bigger investment money-wise.
No, I totally hear it, but, I just think there's a lot that goes with Aaron Rodgers. That's all I will say. There's just a lot.
The McAfee appearances, the New York media, it's all going to be in the stew.
Yeah, and the outside interest in the media, wanted to host Jeopardy. I can't believe he's not hosting his own podcast yet. That would have nothing to do with sports.
That's coming.
The darkest retreats, all this stuff.
But the thing is about like the ayahuasca, the darkness retreats, the stuff that's a little more like, I don't want to be disrespectful, a little more hippity-dippity, like a little bit more out there. It doesn't hurt anybody. He explains it very well about why he does this stuff. It doesn't, it's so just about him. He's not pushing it on anyone else.
But it's not football.
Well, but football maybe needs a little bit of some new life into it because athletes today aren't like they were all those years ago.
Yeah, I mean, all those years ago, 2 years ago when Tom Brady came to Tampa Bay and had practices in his backyard.
Yeah, all those years ago, 5 years ago.
Listen, I'm just saying, Jets and Rodgers, I think high risk, high reward, and it's a very high ceiling, but there's a basement here.
Yeah.
I mean, he can come in. By the way, Joe Douglas could be easy. Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh, if it doesn't work.
Could be gone.
They could easily be gone.
Yeah. The one thing where you and I are going to disagree, well, we disagree on a lot of stuff, but the one thing about the retirement, 90-10.
That was crap.
Okay. So, yes, I agree with you that you ask a guy right after the season ends, they're all going to tell you they want to retire because, like, their bodies are just decimated, right? However, that's the one thing that might hold me up before I would jump in with 2 feet as a Jets fan. It's like, oh, man, he's really thinking this hard about retirement. Like, what am I getting?
We've gone over this before. The quarterbacks who talk about the retirement the most play the longest. That's facts.
Yeah.
It's been proven time and time again. It's just like guys who talk about how much action they're getting out in the dating scene are probably getting the least amount.
Getting no action, right?
I mean, Favre talked about retirement for the better part of 14 years. It does not matter.
Yeah, a little
Tom Brady,
too much.
Yeah, and Tom Brady, retired last year, came back. Big Ben was talking about retirement from 35 on. Probably should have done it.
Yeah.
But so I don't buy it. I just don't buy it. And I don't know, this quarterback who was pretty good last year goes into a darkness retreat ready to retire, comes out of the darkness retreat not ready to retire. Are you surprised I'm a little bit dubious of this whole process, Maggie? It's not normal.
It's not normal. But you know what? Aaron Rodgers with a chip on his shoulder, which he said today there's no animosity with Green Bay, that he's got nothing but love, but clearly he felt some kind of way when he came out of the darkness retreat and he's getting text messages like, bro, they're moving on.
Yeah.
So
now they have nothing but love.
Who?
The Packers. See what I did there? Dad joke.
Oh, yeah.
Because they have Jordan Love as their quarterback.
Nicely done.
Yeah.
Manny, don't encourage him.
Manny, no, Manny got it.
Don't do that, Manny.
appreciates
Don't submarine the show. We're not even through the first segment. Don't encourage him.
They got nothing but love. That's a pretty good line.
Yeah.
I mean, who's their backup? I don't even know. They probably only have love right now. It's even accurate.
Literally, are you going to go work for like the Green Bay Gazette next?
Yeah, probably. I don't know. Did they sign Tim Boyle or somebody? I don't even know who their backup is. I think they got nothing but love.
Sue, is it Sue?
Got Danny Etling as the third stringer right now behind Rodgers and Love.
Danny Etling, out of the former Patriot?
Went to LSU.
Oh, no. I'm thinking Nate Ebner. Danny Etling, yeah.
How dare you?
Yeah, Danny Etling was a Patriot. Yeah. They basically got love.
Perloff, who loves backup quarterbacks and loves third-string quarterbacks even more than backup quarterbacks, if he's giving you the you don't think.
Danny Etling will not be the second-string quarterback there.
Probably not. Who cares? Honestly. I mean, no offense. Sorry. Should I care who the backup quarterback is for the Packers?
No. It was just, did I execute that joke right? And I think it's pretty good. I think it's right. Manny likes it.
Yeah, I liked it too.
Thumbs up. Oh, Stu.
Sorry, Maggie.
E2?
That was solid.
Yeah, it was good.
Crap.
My timing was a little bit off because it took me a second to come up with it. If I'd said it right in the moment, it would have been better.
Dominic in the chat says 39 single darkness retreats. Stay away. I don't think so, man.